of the more modern conveniences in our home. So it's not just a Victorian home, but it has a little more contemporary feel to it. I'd say that our bed and breakfast offers some of the most personalized service to visitors to St. Augustine, and definitely give them an outstanding gourmet served breakfast that people rave about.
And we are back, 904 Live, Facebook. This is the real GM, Grayson Marshall Jr., the metacognition maven, the guy to get you to believe in you. And man to my left is
Dr. Adrian. Never forget the A, the guy that teaches you how to choose excellence in every part of your life.
Our first show was 9 years ago.
9.
And it had everything to do with what's holding us back.
Absolutely.
And I think that when Faith Eats Radio was out, you were really talking to people about being hungry for pursuing their faith, really going after it. I mean, faith has to eat, because I think so many other things eat during the day, during our time on earth. But what's holding us back? And we talked about a bunch of stuff at that time, but fast forward 9 years later, and we're different, we're older. Times have changed. I think 9 years ago we had a different political system. 9 years ago we had a different economic system. I mean, there were so many things going on differently at that time. But what are the things that you see today that are holding people back? I mean, there's a lot going on now with racial divide, racial injustice, police brutality. I mean, these are topics that are readily talked about. They're in the news, they're in the media. And you and I both, we have those discussions. I'm never going to make excuses for where I can be, should be, or could be based on what's going on in the system. But what are some of the things that you see that are holding people back right now?
You know, the funniest thing about it is we talk about this all the time. And it's funny because our conversation ends up coming back to the exact same topics. And there's nothing, I don't believe, truthfully different about what's holding us back 9 years ago as it is today. I think more fear is involved. And I think the number one thing to fear, period, when it comes to what's holding us back, that's the one thing that stops everybody from moving forward. And that's been over the last, that's throughout history. You know, it's one of the things we talk about in the Bible all the time is 365 times, do not fear. Why? Right. Because guess what? It's the one emotion that where it's guaranteed to happen. But the problem is we haven't learned how to conquer that emotion.
And we live, and I think the challenging part about it is that you said it 365 times in the Bible, it says fear not. That's one for every day. So it's not something we're supposed to do. 2 Timothy says, 1 Timothy, we were not given a spirit of fear, but a power and love and a sound mind. So in essence, we're not wired to deal with fear every day.
Absolutely not.
But yet it becomes our default emotion. It becomes what we tend to gravitate towards. And it's crazy because we want to, and again, fear is a learned response because by nature, there's only two fears that someone's technically born with. That's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noise.
Absolutely.
Every other fear is learned. Economic fear, poverty, abandonment, all those things have been learned based on experience. So when we look at what we've been through, now you add to that a reticular historical thing that keeps coming back. It keeps raising its ugly head because we're looking at it right now in 2020. You have so many people talking about we shouldn't be going through racial divide right now. We shouldn't be going through that. Well, we're going through it because the same element of fear still exists.
Absolutely.
You have a group of people that are afraid of the other group. You have a group of people that are resenting the other group, which is nothing but fear in and of itself. And the reality of it is this same thing continues to plague us year in and year out. So the question is, why is it so real to people? Why is fear such a debilitating emotion? Why does it grip so many people to where they can't do anything?
And truthfully and honestly, I believe it's how we've been conditioned, right? from the very from childhood, and you talk about how we only had 2 fears when we initially were born, correct? So now the environment that we're in, who we deal with, who we talk to, who we interact with, are always pushing their fears on you. Think about it for a minute. So a child by the age of 7 years old, right? That's when their mind is most malleable. You can change that mind, right? But there's nothing but adults pouring into them. So we don't necessarily we learn. We're not necessarily taught, but we always are learning something. So whoever's around us is teaching us our values, our belief systems, how we should think, how we should act, how we should walk. The mind of a child is completely, the imagination it runs wild.
Correct.
However, as we get older, guess what? We lose that imagination because people have beat down our dreams, our abilities, our understanding of what life really looks like. A child, I believe, can figure out something so much faster than an adult because we're locked into our way of thinking.
So look at the world we're in today, 2020. We know what's going on in the world. It's if you've been under a rock, there's a racial issue going on right now. There's a social injustice issue going on right now. All these things are relevant, but here's the deal. COVID, you name it, is here. But here's what I see, and I'm again, all of you watching, please chime in and please comment. But I still see the avoidance of personal accountability.
No question.
I still look at people, and again, I've had conversations with people, and I did my talk this morning, and it had to do with fear, feelings, and truth. I mean, feelings, facts, and truth.
Okay.
And the reality is that so many people are in their feelings, and your feelings don't allow you to really grasp what's going on because feelings aren't facts.
Correct.
But what happens is that when people have their feelings and they keep staying in them, now it becomes a fact that leads to a personal truth.
Absolutely.
Truth is all relative based on how you see things. So at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is that there has been some differentiation in how certain races are treated. That's a fact.
Yeah.
There is a fact that slavery existed. That's a fact. There's a fact that there's been an oppressed system, a broken system of social being. That's a fact. You can't get around those. Racism exists. That's a fact. You can't get around it. And what I laugh about sometimes, Doc, is the fact that you want to argue about stuff that there's no argument about. Why are you arguing about racism? It exists. Who do you think? How can you live in this world and try to tell me that it doesn't?
Right.
You can't tell me prejudice isn't here. You're crazy if you think that's the case.
Absolutely.
So how in the world? Why are we talking about stuff that really is not up for debate? We're arguing about things that, and as opposed to really deciding what it is we need to do.
Because people are problem oriented.
Correct.
Right? We'll talk about the problem all day long. It makes us feel good. I think we talked about it last week. It creates a dopamine inside of our body.
Correct.
Right? We feel like we're part of the system and we're doing something by literally talking about it. But the solutions never come about, right? Because we've never been taught to look at ourselves when there's a problem. We've never been taught to problem solve. And I say it all the time. I don't believe people in this day and age really understand how to critically think.
No.
So the first thing we move to what is emotion.
Correct.
And we're typically feeding off the emotions of other people. We're not even dealing with our own emotions.
We
don't
avoid those.
understand
You
why
avoid
we
that.
might-
You avoid that.
Exactly. But we'll look at someone else's emotions.
Right.
And it was crazy. I think me and you talked about it. Someone giving you a call. And he was, once again, emotional. He was emotional about this whole situation. And as you spoke to him, he began to calm down. But the reality was, he didn't even know how to act or respond. He didn't know what he should say. He didn't know what he should do. He didn't know what side to play. And we have to get to a point where we think for ourselves. But thinking for ourselves makes us have to look at ourselves.
Correct. So you look at the Hegel principle. The Hegel principle says problem, reaction, solution.
Solution, correct.
And that's the way, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't care if you believe this or not, that's how the media manipulates and moves you. They deal with the Hegel principle. Problem, reaction, solution. So here's what they do. They create a problem. The media's narrative will create a problem.
Right.
And they wait to see what you do. And after they see what you do, then they present the solution.
Right.
So we're looking at what's going on right now. I've heard so many people say that the peaceful protests are unity. And I'm trying to figure out, what are you unified in? Because everybody out there has a different agenda.
Well, there's no solidarity.
Correct, none whatsoever. So why, but that's what we need. And you and I have talked about that many times. I told my sister last night, we're talking about this, and my sister lives in D.C. My sister's the head of online education for Department of Defense. So she's government entrenched, right? She's been in that world almost 26 years. So she's had to deal with the dominance of that world, the influx, the ability for that not to be flexible.
Correct.
So we talked about this. So I said to her, I said, here's where the bus boycott in Montgomery had its own value and why we can't get that today. I said, because then they agreed to not ride the bus. Everybody agreed that. Nobody gonna ride the bus. That ain't gonna happen in 2020 if you try to get folks to stop doing stuff.
Listen, I had that same conversation. I had the exact same conversation with someone about Papa John's Pizza. You know, and I talked about the owner of Papa John's saying something racial over the phone.
Correct.
I said, you know what? I just won't eat there.
Right.
Another African American, well, Black American.
Right.
Well, I love their pizza. We don't have enough discipline, right? The reality is, a pizza will make you go against your entire morals. Their pizza tastes good. That's sauce. That's sauce. But the reality is the pizza. We don't have enough discipline, right? And we won't look at ourselves. We're trying to use tactics. And this is what I found crazy, right? If you know the what, but you don't understand the who and the how, the what is completely ineffective.
Correct.
Right? And so most people, they look at the what they've seen other people do, but they don't understand the what, the who, I mean the when, the what, the how.
Right.
And so they try to utilize the same principles. Well, you have to understand why someone is doing something and why it was done and how it was done before it can be completely effective. A march or a riot, right, back then was aimed at fixing something.
Right.
Now we're trying to use it to add leverage,
right?
This is what we want, so this is now leverage.
Right.
We're not looking at ourselves in that system. So my father, as you know, he was an African American lit professor. And one of the people he put me on was James Baldwin.
Yes, sir.
And I love James Baldwin because James Baldwin, absolutely, he did talk about the injustices.
No question.
He did talk about the injustices that was done to the Black American community. However, he also talked about the actions of the African American community that allowed it to continue. So he always said, okay, there is a problem over there. However, if we want to fix this problem, the solution is with us. And I think why we're stuck in the way we are today, where we are today, is because we have never introspected. And we never want to look at our issues. We want to continue to blame other people for their problems and what they've done to us, or what they should be giving us. And that's not just in this racism matter. This is in every aspect of our lives.
This introspection is necessary, and we talk about accountability all the time.
Correct.
That's one of the things that we don't want to embrace. Look at yourself, and we don't want to do that. It's amazing, the conversations that I have with people about not looking at ourselves, but looking at this. It's a fact that the system's broken. It's been broken.
Right.
That's a fact. But here's what I said this morning. I said, I'm not going to not achieve because the system's broken.
Absolutely not.
I'm not going to keep doing what I need to do because the system is broken. And I think when we look at things that are holding us back, it is our inability to survey, assess, and figure out how to move forward. We're literally being taught and told, here's what we need to do as a group. No, you need to become a leader, show that it can be done, and follow a different principle when it goes to it.
Right.
And we don't have enough people doing that. And it has nothing to do with education. I know folks with doctorate degrees, master's degrees that have fallen into this same mindset. And the real reality of it is that they're still employees. And I want to make the distinction because when I'm working for somebody, no matter what level of education I've achieved, I'm still bound to them controlling my life. They still write me a check. They still pay for me. No matter how much an athlete gets paid in the world today, they're still an employee.
Absolutely.
They're a high-paid employee. They're a well-paid employee. They're a two-generation paid employee, but they're still an employee. And I think there's a mindset that has to come with the independence of who I can become. So many people migrate here or immigrate here from other countries with nothing. They leave socialist, communist regimes knowing that they cannot achieve any more than the system allows them to do. But they come here to the United States and they become financial stories. We live here, we're born and raised here, and they come over here believing it's the land of opportunity. We live here and we believe it's the land of Social Security.
Absolutely.
So now it comes down to why are they doing it? We get frustrated when Asians come into our neighborhood and set up shop on the corner, and now we're buying from Asians.
Right.
It's amazing to me how we don't, and then we'll complain about them getting money. We'll complain about them being able to do that when the same opportunity is afforded to you,
Well,
and
no,
you just don't take advantage
Well,
of
the
it.
reality is you have to realize that the same opportunities are afforded to you, right?
Right.
So many people don't understand that there is an opportunity there, right? We've been conditioned to believe, and this is a lot of people that's saying, why are they getting something I'm not getting anything? They've been conditioned to believe that someone owes them something. Point blank, period. You know what I mean? So I think really when we're talking about why are we here, like why are we in this place, I think we have to begin to look at who are we hanging around.
I mean, it has to become a time, Doc, where my resume isn't all I put my hat on. And here's what I mean. I hear so many Black Americans talk about the country being built on the backs of Black
Sweet.
people.
Okay.
And you want to hold on to that.
Okay.
That's wonderful. I will not deny that.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Uh-huh.
But how far? Where's that going to take you?
Right.
Where does that next move? How does that move you forward? And I think and I said it's my resume because oftentimes when we go looking for jobs, we feel like what was on our resume qualifies me for this next thing.
What do you mean?
So when that's what I mean.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what do you mean?
That's the mindset.
When you used to play football, you used to play basketball. That game that you lose,
Right.
you can't spend too much time thinking on it because
Correct.
guess what? The next game you have to perform
Right away.
And I think that's what most people fail when trying to move forward in life. In general, you're still holding on to what hurt, the pain, the frustration. It's not about learning something. The hardest part we have to do is to relearn what we think we already know. Learning something is easy.
Right.
So you do the MAC test on people all the time, and you can see how a person can be programmed in 30 seconds. Now imagine being programmed for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So I always look back at who do I hang around? Because the grim reality is this. COVID has hit. Now we having riots every week. We had some killer wasps. Still haven't seen them yet, but we had some killer wasps going on. But in this time frame, last month, me and my partner had one of the best months ever in real estate, right? I've gotten accepted to take my real estate exam. We started another company. Right. You started another company.
Exactly.
That's going well.
Exactly.
So in the midst of all of this that is so-called drama that most people are focused on, you and I, we talk every day in the morning. What's your plans for the day? What's my plans for the day? So we're fixated on something completely different. So when you tell me about a riot that's going on, I don't understand it because I'm not even focused on it.
Well, wait a minute, but you're not. Hold on, Doctor. If you're not focused on the riot, then you're not down for the cause.
What am I?
If you're not focused on the riot, if you're not all into the news 24/7,
Sweet.
if you're not having conversations about this, if you're not posting certain things on your page, then maybe you just don't care.
Care about what?
About that.
I know everybody has heard this before. The greatest revenge is success.
Correct.
Massive
Correct.
success.
Correct.
Right? So I'm fixated on building me. I can only change the world around me. And I tell people that all the time. You can only have influence with the people around you that you choose to have influence on. Everything in the world is not going to change because of these incidents that are happening. I can only control me, so I have to learn more. I have to study. I have to read. I have to constantly discipline myself. I have to grow as a person to become better so I can, guess what? Teach the people around me how to become better. If I know one thing and I reach with you, I love this about, and this was a group that caused a lot of conflict in the 60s and 70s. It was the Black Panthers, right? However, they created a system, an economic system, right? Where they began to educate, they fed their own people. They weren't attached to the government handouts, right? They looked at their own selves and their own community and they said, you know what can we do to empower our community? And that's how I feel. I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're white, I don't care if you're Asian. It doesn't matter. Everything that changes has to begin with you.
No question.
And until we get that mindset, until we get around people, I have absolutely zero negative people in my life right now.
And I think that's the beautiful part. That's the beautiful part about where we can be. You talked about folks being fixated on stuff. I think they're fixated on what you talked about earlier, the fear. I think there's a world of people that don't believe it'll ever change. I think there's a world of people that worry about it's not going to happen. This time it has to happen. Here's the reality. I'm as positive a person as you can be. I'm going to talk to you about what can be. I'm a glass half. If I have to give an analogy, I'm a glass half full kind of person.
No, that's full for me.
But the reality of it is, when I look at people, I'm looking at the constant inundation by or with what's wrong.
Right.
You just talked about the things that are going on around the life. I mean, why can't you be inundated with what's right? I mean, there's so many people right now, and I happen to be in business with a few of them, that are looking at this opportunity that we're facing and finding a way to create revenue from it. I mean, you think about it right now. There's so many people that have looked at this COVID-19 and said, okay, where's the business opportunity? Where can this go right now? We were just talking about this earlier, me, you, and Mr. Petty. We're talking about Jacksonville, Florida. And I called you earlier and I said, Doc, did you know there was a Bentley dealership, Alfa Romeo and Maserati right there on JTB? And you were like, yeah. They called your partner because they're coming in. They were in her Airbnb.
Right.
So I'm looking at myself. Success leaves clues.
Absolutely. And I've said it for years.
If Bentley, Alfa Romeo, and Maserati are coming to Jacksonville,
There's money here.
there's something going on in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
I need to be in the mix.
Absolutely.
I need to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And you can't do that if you're worried about all of the other stuff that you cannot control. And what you could control, you don't do it because it would take solidarity to do that. I told my sister, because my sister lives on the 8th Street corridor down in D.C. And growing up, there was nothing on them street white but the lines. Okay, it was just us and the lines on them street. Look, that's what's
teeth
up.
and eyeballs at night.
That's it. Bottom line, if you wanted to walk on the street. So I remember about 5 years ago when I was going back home to take care of my mom. I got off the plane at Reagan. I called an Uber to my sister's house. I was gonna get her other car. It was 11:30 at night. I know where I grew up. I know who in the street. They got white folk walking their dogs at 11:30. I said, what is going on here?
Right.
I told my sister, I said, I have no idea what this is. Regentrification, right? So again, what I'm talking about is not the fact that white America's coming back into the inner city, but there's the opportunity when it comes to real estate. What is it that you're seeing that we're not seeing? Why are you buying that stuff up when we've looked at it as dilapidated? You see it as valuable. You're coming and buying it. So my thought has always been, how do I look at what folks are doing and how do I make that happen in my life? Berry Farms, for those of y'all in the 202 that's watching, y'all know Berry Farms is nothing but the hood, used to be. Go-go music, everything came out of those areas. Right now, Berry Farms is now, look at it, New Anacostia. New Anacostia. Old Town Anacostia, my sister said they calling it now. So she was with some folks that said, look, if you got some money, you need to be investing in Old Anacostia.
Right.
I told my sister, go look at that stuff right now.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if somebody else is doing it, why are you not doing it? I'm not arguing with these folks. What's holding us back is our inability to see opportunity. It's clouded by confusion. It's clouded by ambiguity. It's clouded by frustration. Right now, there is an opportunity to create wealth.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember reading the book, and you can hate the messenger, or you can get the message one way or the other. But I was reading a book by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki, Why We Want You to Be Rich. And inside of that book, it talks about two things, right? Two things that wealthy people have that we do not have, right? One is a different type of knowledge, of course. They've seen different things. They've been they have been around different things than we possibly have. They've read different things. They understand finance. The second thing was individuals. Who do they hang around? Right? The more I grow, the older I get, I start to realize my relationships play more of a role in success than anything else in my life. And how I create those relationships. And so for me, when I start seeing things that don't go with my 3 Ps, my peace, my purpose, or my passion, I automatically begin to release those people out of my life because I understand that I'm trying to go somewhere. And what we've lost is we've never really been taught how to choose friends. We've been taught how to look at a business. I mean, look at a job. Right? We've been taught how to look for features on a car, but we've never been taught how to look for people and bring them into our lives as we would want them to grow with us.
No question. And, you know, I've learned that if you're really seeking those 3 Ps, they move on their own.
Absolutely.
Because when you really are doing the stuff you do and you really focus on what you need to do, they can't have that space anymore.
No.
It's not even healthy for them to be there. And they don't want to be there because your conversation is different. Your actions, your antics, your animations, they're all completely different because they're moving in a different place.
Correct.
So I'm going to ask you guys out there right now, what's holding you back? I want y'all to type in right now. What are some of the things that are holding you back? What are some of the things that you want to do that you're not doing? And give us some topics to talk about when it comes to it, because when you look at what's holding you back, it's only you. And we said that, and the topic was that way. What's holding you back? Not what's holding back. What's holding you back? And the excuses that you make about the system, my history, all those things, it is not real. It's almost like a fabricated fallacy that's in your mind. All that stuff. Well, Grayson, well, come on, Grayson. You know it ain't been fair, it ain't been right, it ain't been real. I knew that from the beginning. This is not new, Mr. Petty. What's going on in the world right now is not new. The struggle, the fight, the quest to be better, the need to be better, that's not new. I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden this seems like fresh bread being cut.
Absolutely.
It's not new. The system been broke. I don't know why we don't get that. I said this to my sister. I said, and you and I talked about this before, but solidarity on one topic. So police brutality. If we had to look at all of what's going on right now, I think you could probably get people to rally behind police brutality.
Absolutely.
So here's Mr. Petty, here's my thought. What if some of the money that's used in cities were used to put cameras in neighborhoods? High up on poles to survey the neighborhood. I can see what's going on in the neighborhood. I'm man somebody to watch. The NFL has people watching film after every Monday. I can do the same thing. I'm creating jobs. But here's the other thing. If I've got eyes on the street, I'm going to reduce people's flat out desire just to be wild out and crazy. Now, what if the second thing we do, Mr. Petty, we start policing our own neighborhoods again? If you're worried about the police coming in, police your own neighborhoods, you ain't got to call them no more. Because when I grew up, wasn't no drive-by. Cops didn't just roll through my neighborhood. Auntie down the street was going to put her foot in your behind if you acted up and going to send you home, call your mom and daddy, tell her she put her foot in your behind, and then you're going to get another when you get to the house. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, what we've done is we've relinquished all of that authority, all of that accountability. And when we don't have that accountability to authority, whether it be police officers or people, now we don't even have ourselves as our own authority. If I'm not here's the deal. If I don't have fear of the police, then I definitely ain't got no fear of me.
Right.
And if I don't have fear of me, now I become and put myself in a position of self-destruction. Because now I've got no one to watch over me. I'm not saying the police need to watch over us, but I'm talking about the mindset that goes there. If I had a Grayson B. Marshall Sr., God rest in peace, 2007, December 28th, he went home to be with the Lord. I was scared of that joker. I ain't gonna lie to you. Now, I was taller than him eventually, but look at here. If my father's, I remember taking my kids home one time. I was probably in my early 40s, Mr. Petty. No, I'm in late 30s, early 40s. And my dad told me to take trash out, right? I took the trash out. I didn't say I'd do it in a minute. I didn't say I'd get around to it. That's not how that works. Big Gray said take the trash out. You take the trash out. And I think we've gotten away from that reverence for authority. I think there's something that goes with that, because what it did is that relationship, Doc, made me more accountable in my life. It made me more aware of the things I need to do from a responsibility level, for an accountability level, from an accountability level. And I think it's carried over into my life. Because you know, like last week, he got hit to the show before me. He called me. Why? That's a rare occasion. Mm-hmm. He said, you all right, Doc? You're not here yet. Because, again, you develop. And Bishop McLaughlin said this to me one time. He's spoken from the pulpit before. Your repetition will give you a reputation. Mm-hmm. How you do anything, and we talked about this before, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Right. And I think when you look at people and what they can do, at the end of the day, it's all about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, what's holding you back? What is it that stopped you from dreaming? What kept you from being, or keeping you from going after what it is you need to go after?
And we talk about anything, right? We talk about business. We talk about relationships,
whatever it is.
Absolutely. We would love to hear it right now. I see BG says nothing. Investing, building my businesses in spite of COVID-19 and being furloughed. Please ask the questions.
So let's take that.
So let's
take furlough.
Well, she's saying nothing. She's actually doing it.
Right.
As of right now. But I look at that. I look at COVID-19, and I think it placed a wave of fear, right? And we can go
That was
back.
a wave. I'm gonna say tsunami.
A tsunami of fear.
I'm gonna say tsunami.
And we
That
can
wasn't
go
a
back
wave.
and
That was
forth
tsunami.
about it being a virus or was the deadliest thing on earth ever. You know what I mean? It's funny because it never even crossed my mind. I lived my life regularly, this is the way it was. But the reality is this: there are some things that you wanted to do when you got the time off. Then you got the time off. So now there was another reason why you didn't start that business is because I don't know how much money I'm going to have or when I'm going to go back to work. So I want to look, I really want people to ask questions on this because the reality is this, right? There's never going to be a perfect time. They talk about that in the Bible.
No question.
Correct? So what's holding us back first is your excuses. We talk
Correct.
about fear.
Correct.
And many times those excuses are just in line with the fear so you can justify you not doing what you say you want to do.
Well, and they don't really want to do it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You don't really want to do it. Again, we talk about reconciliation. We talk about solidarity, unity. We don't really want unity. Because if you wanted unity, your attitude towards it would be different.
Correct.
Unity would produce a love motif, not a hate motif.
Correct.
Not because right now, especially getting close to the election, now it's about being right or wrong. What side you on? How do you? I'm looking at, and it really getting on my nerve. You know how much I love sports. I had to stop looking at Sports Center. I had to stop looking at it. And for you all that know me, for me to say to stop looking at Sports Center, I had to. Because I was so sick of the doom and gloom they were painting about the sports not coming back. It's not going to happen. What are you going to do? Follow the money. I told y'all from the beginning when this first thing happened. If y'all thought that they were not going to have football season, y'all crazy. It was not going to happen. That's too many people on too many Saturdays and Sundays that flow into the economic change that's in the world. Wasn't going to happen. And we're looking right now. Now all of a sudden, everybody's starting to come back. Why? Because it's getting close to football season. That's just reality. Follow the money. And that's what we need to do. We need to follow the money. When it comes to us in ourselves, when we look at what's holding us back, it's our inability to be, and you said it before, rational and real about what's going on.
Right.
We don't want to look at what's going and call it what it is. Because I think there's people that don't want to believe that it's that way. It can't be that way. No, they can't really be acting that way. They can't really be doing that. Yes, they are. I'm sorry. They are. If you don't think the media narrative is to get you to act and respond a certain way, I don't know what to tell you.
And Eva says, discuss some steps on changing your mindset since that's where it starts.
Okay, so let's look at the mind. When we look at I did this a couple weeks. I think the 4 Agreements. When we look at Don Miguel Ruiz's book, when we look at that book, he gives us 4 things that we can do, and I think it's very important that we can look at those. Denny and I were talking about that when it came down to it. The very first thing, Eva, that folks can do is be impeccable with your words. Now, impeccable comes from the Latin word peccatos, which means sin. So M is not. Pectos, sin, not sin with your mouth. So half of what you're doing, the problem is what you're talking about. What you constantly having conversations about. What you constantly saying. We talked about Proverbs 18:21, what you're speaking. A lot of the stuff that's coming in your life is because of what's coming out of your mouth. You're not impeccable with your word. You flip. The Bible talks about being tossed and fro by any wind of doctrine.
Right.
A double-minded man being unstable in all his ways.
Correct.
And the reality is, you got, depending on the group you're around, if you're a business owner, you might have an affinity for the economic change that has been a result of President Trump. However, when you look at you being brother from the hood, you can't like it. That's just the way it is. So depending on my conversation, I'm talking about both sides of my mouth when I come to a lot of things. So be impeccable with your words. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I think so many people do not really believe, and you talked about this, being convicted about what they believe. Group think instead of you think.
Absolutely.
And when they have to you think, they don't know how to, you said it earlier, they don't know how to critically think.
Absolutely.
So it comes down to that. That's why they can't be impeccable with the word. Don't sin with your words. The second thing is that you can't take anything personal. If you want to stop holding yourself back, stop taking everything personal.
Right.
Everything is personal. Everything is against you. Everything is at you. Everybody's out to get you.
And that's what,
and folk don't care about you.
and I think that's the problem with being emotional, right?
Correct.
I think I told you about it when I was in the Army, right? When I was in boot camp. I told you a story a little bit earlier. And we were doing, hand-to-hand combat training for a couple of days. One night I had fire guard, right? So I'm up all night guarding, right? So the next morning I can actually sleep in. My drill sergeant called me in the room. He sat me down, and he says, Adrian, we get to talking a little bit. He says, Adrian, who wins the fight? I said, I don't know. Person who fight the hardest, I guess, right? He said, no. He says, the person who controls their emotion. He says, the person that controls their emotion wins the fight. It's not the person that gets hit and begins flaring and going crazy and emotion and ego and insecurities get involved. It's the person that remains calm and utilizes the tactics he understands. And I think most people have to get into that place and understand your EQ plays a real role in what's going on inside of your life right now. EQ being emotional intelligence. It plays a role in how you react and respond. It plays a role on how you listen to things. Because when people start yelling and screaming and fussing about what's going on, I don't see any common sense there. You get what I'm saying? I don't see any rational thinking. All I see is an outburst of emotion. How could I, and I tell people this all the time, please understand me. I understand there's racism. I understand that. I have no doubt in my mind that there's racism. However, I've never dealt with racism.
Correct. I've been
so
right there
there's
with
no way that I could possibly hate a group of people that have never hurt me. But black folk, y'all done done some, boy, y'all done ran my name through the mud. I owe about $500,000 can come back into my pocket right now from the things you have done. And I'm not saying I hate or dislike you in any way. What I'm saying is I can't hate anyone that has never done anything to me because I'm thinking it from a rational standpoint. I understand that some people are not going to like me for the color of my skin. I understand that, guess what? There may be some other roadblocks that I have to go through as being African American, white, black, woman. It doesn't really matter. There are going to be some roadblocks. But we have to begin to think rationally. If someone else can do it, I can do it.
Right? And that's my whole philosophy. If it's ever been done, then it's doable. I tell folks all the time when I'm speaking, if anybody you know has succeeded with your past, whether it's been abuse, whether it's been abandonment, whether it's been poverty, if anybody has done that, then you can do it. And you have no excuse. So when we sit there and do that, again, our history is documented with people that have overcome, that have done something. The matter of fact, the first millionaire female in the United States did it during the pandemic.
And the reality is, yeah, absolutely.
Did it during the pandemic. The 1920 Spanish flu, Madam C.J. Walker became the first female millionaire in the world.
Right. So instead of taking it personal, you have to think one of the qualities of any successful person is persistence. Let's switch that term real quick. Instead of taking it personal, get persistent.
Correct.
And I look at the word P. I use the word passion all the time. And I have to go back because I'm a words person. I have to understand what they mean. Passion actually means suffer. In the Latin, passion, passio, means suffer. So you can't say that I'm passionate about anything in my life if you're not willing to go through it.
Correct.
So when you see a singer that's been doing it 10, 15, 20 years and getting paid pennies, when you see a speaker that has spoke on so many stages, have been booed off before, guess what? He's not taking any of it personal because he's taking it through his passion. He's willing to go through something. Most of us aren't willing to go through anything. That's why we take things personal, because you're going to have to get kicked. You're going to have to get punched. It's a part of success. You're going to have some nights when you eat. I hate oodles and noodles, so I'm going to tell you that right now. But there's been some things as a business owner to say I'm an entrepreneur that I've had to go throughout my life, and I've been passionate about it the whole time. Why? Because I was willing to suffer for what I say I want.
And for those of us that are passionate, it's not suffering. Even though the word says that, it's not suffering. It's part of the process. It's what you have to go through. It's what you have to do.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about being impeccable through words. We're talking about
not taking it personal.
Not taking it personal. Number 3, he talks about make no assumptions. And at the end of the day, we tend to do that all the time.
That's all we're doing right now.
Okay?
That's all we're doing right now.
That's all that's going on out there in the world today. Making assumptions. You assume that whoever going to be next president going to fix it all. You assuming that the economy going to come back better. You assuming all these assumptions you're making, that you assume that legislation is going to change the hearts of people. Now, I'm sorry, but I know that only can be done by one person. But we think that if you just make some legislation, if you write this down, and I told the folks today, I said in 1865, there was legislation on paper that said slavery is illegal. It didn't stop slavery. It just made it illegal. Just like there's legislation that says drugs in the United States aren't okay. There can be all the legislation in the world.
That doesn't change.
It doesn't stop drugs from coming here. Absolutely. It's the bottom line. So I don't care what legislation is there. It's the heart of the man. And again, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Unless you're going to change the heart, these things are going to exist. But here's why they exist anymore. I heard Morgan Freeman say this. He said, he said, how do we fix racism? You know what his comment was? Stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. He said, whatever you focus on, whatever you talk about, you give more energy to.
Absolutely.
And we said, well, we got to talk about it. No, you don't. You don't have to talk about it. It's here. But the more you talk about it, the more you give it energy. The more you give it that. Make no assumptions. How many people assume it's never going to get any better?
Well, and that's in every area of your life. And y'all have to understand this. We may have started this off. Let's talk about the problems that are going on today. And this is how we battle. Literally, you're listening to how we talk to each other on a daily goddamn going basis. But the reality is this every hour, every area of your life, right? Assumptions. And assumptions really lead to a lot of fear and miscommunication, misunderstandings.
They're rooted in fear.
They're rooted in fear. So when we're looking at assumptions, we're looking at, okay, I'm starting a new business. You've already assumed that you're going to fail. Don't know why.
Correct. Or it's going to be hard.
Or you're going to get into a new relationship. And guess what? They're going to cheat. You haven't even talked to them yet. Like, it's the craziest things, but that's what we've been taught to go directly to. Is the assumption that something is supposed to be negative.
Well, because it's familiar. See, so much negative. The negativity is familiar.
Correct.
So I'm going to be okay with that. I can deal with that. I can deal with the negativity. I talked about this before with Jesus and Barabbas.
Correct.
Here, Jesus was the truth, but they said, give us Barabbas. Why? They knew how to deal with. They didn't understand Jesus. I don't understand how a man can come and help all these people out, not get mad when they beat him, and do all this. I can't figure him out. Now this dude over here killing people, I know how to deal with him. Y'all bring him back in. It's easy, and that's the world we live in, and we invite that into our world because
energy.
Exactly, and it becomes how we become comfortable.
And the same people.
Exactly.
That's the reality. I tell people we like people that we're like or want to be like, right? That's how subconsciously we're set up. So we're going to attract people that we like or we want to be like, right? So every time that we're looking at the crowd around us and you're seeing yourself in a place of being stagnant, and I talked about it last week, dealing with value conflicts, you're always going to remain around those people who have the same exact value conflicts as you have, right? So I want to be rich. I want to start a business.
I don't want to work hard.
I don't want to work hard. I value two different things, right? So you'll sit around people, and I hate this. And I think years ago I hate the term like-minded people.
Oh
you
my
say
God,
that again,
yes.
push yourself down.
Yes.
Right? I hate the term like-minded people because like-minded people means if I'm crazy, you crazy too. It does not make sense for you to hang around like-minded individuals. However, we've gotten this term from somewhere, and we believe that we're speaking the right things and positive things. If you're crazy, go find some more crazy people. Absolutely. What you need is been there people.
Correct.
People who've already been there before and done what you want to
Exactly.
do. Stop assuming that you're going to fail before you start, and it's rooted in insecurity. And you're typically hanging around more people who feed that insecurity.
Like attracts like, and you attract who you are, not what you want.
Correct.
People are that way, so make no assumptions. Number 4, and to me, this is as simple as one. And he did a book called The Fifth Agreement. I'm gonna add the fifth one in here. Yeah, no question.
That's the one.
But the fourth one is do your best. Now, I don't know why this is so hard for people, but humans are the only animal on the planet that does less than what's required. I'm gonna say it again. Humans are the only animal on the planet that do less than what's required.
Not just
No other animal does. A bird does everything they're required to do. They hunt, they fly, they do everything. Humans are the only animal that do less than what's required. So we can't even do our best. What is our best? And again, we take it back to a biblical foundation. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely.
Love God. I mean, I don't know why we try to go above and beyond when we can't get that little stuff right.
Correct.
Get that stuff right. I said this one day on one of our Saturday meetings. I said, what if you got paid for loving God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself? What if that paid you every day?
You broke?
Most people would. but the reality, what if that was my only job? You know what? If that was my only job,
Right.
I'd be rich.
Correct.
And I believe that if that was how we looked at life, we'd be that rich. We'd be rich in love, rich in spirit, rich financially, rich in peace. I think we would completely be. rich. But we don't want to do that. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's kind of hard to love my neighbor as myself, and I don't love myself.
And that's the problem. That's the problem right there. Most people don't have love for themselves, and that's why that terminology is so strong. As you love yourself, right? So the reason you're so down on you, the reason you keep having negative thoughts is because you have this belief system in your head that you're supposed to feel, right? I can't love myself. I remember when I was going through my divorce, and I told you this a million times. When I was going through my divorce, and then right after that, I went through a crazy, crazy relationship. And I worked with a guy, and he believed in screwing everybody. Plus, he was a narcissist. He was crazy as hell. So everything that went wrong possibly was my fault. And the one thing I lost was I built my confidence, right? So, of course, the negativity had to seek in. I remember I couldn't cook. Coach, I went to school for cooking. At that point, I was questioning everything that I cooked. And could I do it again?
And you can cook.
But what I'm saying is, I begin to fall backwards. I begin to shrink. A tree will not stop growing until it reaches its full potential.
Right.
Right? So we have to begin to clear out the nonsense that's inside of our head. The reason you won't do your best is because you don't even know your best. And you're not confident in your abilities. So you have to get around the right people and feed yourself the right information. The reason I called it Faith Eats years ago. Faith Eats tagline, eat positivity, live productively, grow prosperously, right? The eat positivity, whatever you're putting inside your mouth, inside of your brain, right? You're automatically is going to dictate your actions. And once you begin your actions, they'll shift. So if I'm around negative information, I'm around negative people, guess what? I'm gonna have negative actions. Common sense. If I give a plant Coca-Cola, it's gonna die, right? So then live prosper. Eat positivity, eat positivity. Dang, I just forgot it just that quick. Eat positivity, live productively, grow prosperously, right? It's a system. It's a system by which to live. If I'm feeding myself the right things, I'm going to act in a certain way, and things have to manifest in my life. But guess what? We started off stunning ourselves because we're around the wrong people. We're feeding ourselves the wrong thing. Once we understand that we have to do our best, and our best is the next best thing, the thing that may scare you, move forward.
And it's when again, looking back at Scripture, great is He that's in you, the He that's in the world. The best is what you should be doing when it comes down to it. Again, 4 things that are simple, but he did a book called The Fifth Agreement.
Now this was the one that everybody.
And this is where we are. This really speaks to today. Be skeptical, but always listen. Be skeptical, but always listen. And he's literally, Don Miguel Ruiz, for those of y'all that don't know who I'm talking about, go look at his book, The Fifth Agreement. He did the 4 agreements, and then he did this one, the 5th agreement. He added this one, be skeptical, but always listen. It's really a chance for you to take in information and evaluate it.
Correct.
Don't agree with everything you hear. Don't agree with everything in the news. Don't agree with everything. Be skeptical, but always listen. But challenge it a little bit. Make sure you ask somebody, this doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, guys. The very first thing that threw me off with COVID-19 was the rush to go buy toilet paper. That was the first thing that took me, I can't do it. I don't understand this. I'm not running out to buy toilet paper.
The respiratory problem, you was going to boo-boo all over yourself.
Again, didn't
respiratory
matter.
issue.
And I saw people rapidly going to get toilet paper.
Correct.
And I still, even when I saw them doing it, I would ask them, why are you buying so much toilet paper? And I had no reason to. And so we look at things about it, be skeptical, but always listen. Again, and I've always said this, Doc, and maybe I'm different, but if everybody's doing it, I'm doing other things.
Right.
I don't care what it is. If everybody's wearing something, I'm wearing something different. Because it's got to be something. Remember the Pokemon thing for a while? When they had the Pokemon
People were literally getting hit by cars.
Getting hit by cars, getting out in the street trying to find these Pokemon.
Absolutely.
I'm like, no. I said at that time, but Pokemon was the Antichrist. Right. I believed that at that time. Because it was too many people doing Pokemon. I said, no, I'm not doing Pokemon. I've just been that way. I've just never been one to follow a trend, because when I look at the history of successful people, that's exactly what they didn't do.
And that's where it goes back to, the critical thinking. The thinking for yourself, to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Most people don't understand why they're doing it. They don't understand how they feel. They never sat down and did an assessment. We talked about it last. Just do a mind map.
Right.
Understand what's going on inside of you before you make a decision, or before you make an action or inaction for that matter. We do this all the time, and I think one of the things we've always talked about from the beginning was getting people to think differently. Just look at the situation different, right? Stop looking at it from an emotional standpoint.
Right.
Look at business from a rational standpoint.
Correct.
Money, does this make sense? Men lie, women lie. Numbers don't lie. Understand that. So everything I've ever done in business, I've gotten to that point where I just want to always look at numbers because I don't care how you feel or you feel. Do the numbers make sense?
Feelings aren't facts.
At all. But guess what? They are what we believe. They're not even rational. There's nothing rational about a feeling. I say it all the time. Egos and insecurities, neither one are rational. Why? Because they're all dictated on what you think, what you've created in your head. So if you want to see negative, guess what you're going to see?
Like all day long.
If I want to see positive, guess what I'm going to see?
Even if it's presented to you, even if anti-information of what you believe is presented to you,
Correct.
you still won't see it.
Absolutely.
No matter what it is.
Absolutely.
And that's the sad part about where we are. We literally have adopted this mindset that feelings are facts, and whatever I feel is my truth, and this is what I'm gonna deal with.
Correct.
And you miss out on opportunity. We talk about passive income all the time, and we've both been involved in community-based marketing, direct selling. And I hear people talk incorrectly about that model of business. It's a pyramid.
What
No,
does
it's
that mean?
not.
But this is the funny part. You don't know what that means.
Exactly.
You don't even know what
and you're
saying.
in one and don't realize you're in
Exactly.
one. It's unbelievable to me. But how can something be a pyramid that's created more millionaires than any other industry outside of entertainment and sports combined? But you can't, it's the indoctrination of people about what you've been told. Be skeptical, but always listen.
Correct.
There's somebody doing it. I think about George Washington Carver. People had to think he was crazy trying to get all that stuff out of peanut. They had to look at him and be like, this fool trying to get what out of peanut? What are you trying to make out of peanut?
Right.
It had to be. But here, again, he said, no, I got to do this. It makes sense to me. And everybody that's done something, I mean, Tesla's got more patents than anybody ever. And somebody had to look at him one day and said, you got to be crazy. You got to be stupid.
Yeah.
And then I look at it on the other side. No, he's not stupid. He was just willing to do what you all didn't want to do.
Correct.
And when we look at these five things, these five agreements, Eva, I wanted to give you something that is a practice because all of these things become, watch this, personal accountability tools. Number one, watch what you say. Number two, don't take it personal. Number three, stop assuming stuff. Number four, do your best. And number five, be skeptical, but listen. Don't put everything away because you have wrapped it in a certain box. Hold on a second. Check it out.
Correct.
That's all you need to do. Check it out. Critically think. But I believe, like what you said earlier, because people don't know how to critically think, they're afraid that they're going to make the wrong decision.
Correct.
They're afraid that they're going to fail, even though failure is the roadmap to success.
But nobody's ever taught that before.
Exactly. You can't, but school taught us that failure was bad.
Right.
So now we've been indoctrinated into the fact that if I believe failure is bad, then I don't want to fail.
So I never tried.
And so ultimately, I'll never succeed. So what school actually did was teach you
wired
not
you.
to succeed.
Absolutely.
It wired you not to succeed, which is why so many D students employ so many A students.
Correct.
Because D students were like, this school don't work for me. I'm going to go do my own thing. Oh, let me go get some good stewards. I'm going to hire all these A folks.
Correct.
Because they are disciplined. They're going to be on time. They're going to run my business for me. But they don't think anymore. And remember,
Then what they're told.
correct. Successful, straight A students are very good at following directions.
Correct.
I need y'all to work for me.
That's it.
Because to get you to creatively think or think a little bit differently, that's not how you got there. You got there by only doing what you were told.
Absolutely.
Never anymore.
Never
No
changing
innovation,
anything,
no
no
creativity.
absolutely.
Even though as children of God, we're born in his image and likeness, we're creators by DNA.
Because it's beaten out of us.
It is.
It's beaten out of us. I think about that as a child. How many times you told your child, stop, don't do that. You can't wear that. You're not walking out the house like that. You're going to embarrass me. Right. So all that creativity is wiped out of us. Words becomes beliefs. Beliefs becomes actions. Actions become outcomes. That's the path. So we have to start with words, like you said, which is going to modify the belief.
Correct.
Which is going to modify the action and outcome. But we don't understand. There's a path to success, and it all begins when we speak.
And I had great parents. Both my parents were educated, but there was something inside of me that said, there's only so much that they can tell me about where I want to go. I knew I didn't want their life. And again, I'm not saying it was a bad one. I just didn't want it.
Right.
So I had to find somebody else that was doing a different life. It cost me some stuff because I had to unlearn that perspective. I had to relearn another one, and I didn't know a lot of people that were doing that.
Correct.
Now, it's a completely different mindset
Correct.
because I'm only searching out those folks with this sort of resume, and that resume is been there people.
Correct.
I'm not looking for like-minded people. And I remember the first time you said that to me, and I hear so many people talk about you get around like-minded
It's
people.
the dumbest thing ever.
If I'm in a room full of people who want to start a business,
And they never started a business.
then I'm in a room full of like-minded people.
That's the dumbest thing
But
ever.
there's nobody that ever started a business, so who am I going to learn from?
Correct. And the reality is this: it never changes your ability to think differently.
Correct.
You're literally getting around people, and it's not a. I hate to say it like this. It's not a confidant. You're literally getting around comrades.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting around people who hype you up and tell you it's okay to be mediocre.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the bad part about it. We were never born to be average. We've
Correct.
accepted average. We were indoctrinated in average, and now average becomes the only battle. Do I become above? Because it's not about being great. It's about being above average or below average. So average stays in the equation.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer about this person achieving. It's about, am I above average or below average? Because you've just accepted that average is the designation.
standard, right.
There's no question. So am I above or below? But why can't I be great? I mean, I'm trying to remember if I ever was in a class, if I ever was, anyway, I'm thinking of my own parents. I don't remember my mom and dad ever telling me I could be great. I could be who I wanted to be. I remember them telling me that I had the skills to do whatever I wanted to do, but there was never any discussion about being great, being the best. Because I think that carried with it an air of superficiality, carried with it an air of ego. And I think my parents always wanted me to remain, and again, we use that word humble again. And unfortunately, that's a misnomer because humility, true humility, is using the gift God gave you to its fullest
It's being
so that it can
confident.
help someone. Correct. So when we get to the place where I just want to be humble, I'm saying, no, that's piety. That's literally demeaning. It's downgrading. It's not allowing you to be the full person you can be.
Correct.
So I think there's a lot of belief systems that we've accepted, Doc, that are part of holding us back. And I think, guys, what I want you to get out of this tonight is that the things that are really holding you back are almost all internal. You literally build your own walls up and create a boundary for yourself within your own lives. You don't allow yourself to grow. We build up walls to keep ourselves in, and we have to change those things. So if you're talking about what's keeping us back, it's truly what you said earlier, Doc. It's, are you willing to self-evaluate? Are you willing to look at you and say, here's where I need to improve? And I can't measure my need to improve if I'm around people that aren't any more and further along than I am. Educationally, financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I can't do that. But if I get there, some been there people, because when we sit down and tell our stories, when folks really know what we went through, now there's a whole different perspective about, oh, I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
No, because I don't look like that anymore.
Absolutely.
But this is what I went through. This is what it was like.
Right.
This is what it was like to come home with no lights on, knowing that I couldn't turn them back on.
Correct.
That I know what that's like.
Absolutely. And the
Come-
time I had that mask when I was in Tijuana, it was horrible.
He's stupid. He was stupid.
With chaps. It was
He used to
horrible.
strip back in the day, but we got him out of that. So that's what was holding him back.
It was
And we
sad.
got him free. Yeah, we got him free.
I was
from that.
chafing.
Yeah, he had a stage name and everything. So we got him out of that.
Red Thunder.
Yeah, and that was holding him back. So we had to get him out of that. That was holding him back. So at the end of the day, it's you. And he changed. I changed. You can change too. If you haven't read that book, go get it, The 4 Agreements, or get the 5th Agreement and read it. It's a very, very simple book, easy read, but it really focuses on you, what you need to do as an individual. What's ultimately holding you back is everything that you've been taught, everything that you practice, and everything that you listen to. Change what goes in your ear gate and your eye gate. Let that effectively shift and watch your life change. You were born to be great, and there's no reason you're not. You were born an original. There's no reason for you to die a copy. This is the Real GM Show with Grayson Marshall Jr. I'm the metacognition expert, the guy, metacognition maven, the guy that gets you to believe in you, and he is
Dr. Adrian, never forget the A. Gentry, the guy that teaches you how to choose excellence in every part of your life.
Next week is going to be an awesome show. Next Sunday's Father's Day, and we're going to take a page out of the housewives of one of them cities, and we're going to bring you the real men of the kingdom. We're going to talk about dealing with men of different colors, different races, different ages too.
Absolutely.
We're going to be from 85 on down next week. and tune in. And if you're a guy, we're really going to promote this week coming up, because I want you all to really see that there is some solidarity, and the solidarity that we share is around the principles of the Bible. It's around biblical principle. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be here next week. Follow Dr. Gentry at Choose Excellence. Follow me on Facebook. And
No.
You know
Dr. Adrian A. Gentry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you just making up stuff.
I
right
just
now.
look. I was going with the hashtag. I was going with the hashtag.
You didn't know. You
I was going with the hashtag.
just putting stuff out there.
So
though.
Dr. Adrian A.
They
Gentry.
can't even find me there.
Why not? We need to work on that.
Listen, Dr. Adrian A. Gentry.
Dr. Adrian A. Gentry. Follow him there. Find me on Facebook. If you can't find me through him, you can find him through me.
Wonder what?
Exactly.
He's
So
just telling you addresses. It ain't even no house. You can't even deliver my mail.
we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thanks for 904 Live on Facebook. Follow Mr. Petty and the things that he's doing. Great programming on it. Greg Daniels, Terry McGriff. Why am I forgetting her name?
Satara.
Satara. And Satara Bunch. So there's some great programming on here, and we're going to continue to grow this. Have a great rest of the week. God bless you. Good night. We'll see you soon. Peace.